From the very first moment she appeared, the beautiful witch Samantha Stevens captivated the whole world, starting in 1964 with the TV series Bewitched the Show that launched the golden era of supernatural sitcoms. She was willing to give up her magic to become a devoted housewife, but in reality, she had to use her witchcraft as a lifesaver to solve all the endless troubles in her daily life. Yet behind that radiant smile, the sparkling magic, and the hilarious situations, there was a dark and dramatic behind-the-scenes world full of shocking secrets, dangerous fires, and explosions on set. Elizabeth Montgomery secretly getting pregnant and having to hide it with clever scripts. The unspeakable reason that forced Dick York to suddenly leave the role of Darrin without the audience ever knowing. And especially even the familiar opening theme song that everyone knows by heart has a secret version that almost no one has ever heard. Today I'm going to reveal the 20 strangest and darkest facts about Bewitched. 20. Elizabeth Montgomery was pregnant 3 times during the filming of the series. Do you still remember the episodes where Samantha suddenly got pregnant and gave birth to the adorable Tabitha? And later, the cute little Adam. It turns out it wasn't entirely fictional. Elizabeth Montgomery, the beautiful Samantha, was actually pregnant 3 times throughout the entire run of Bewitched. The first time happened right in season 1 when Samantha had just become part of the Stevens family. The crew panicked because if her baby bump was visible, the image of the newlywed witch would lose all its magic. They had to use every trick in the book: oversized flowing dresses, tilted camera angles, strategically placed furniture to hide her growing belly, and even changing the way she stood. By the second pregnancy, the producers decided they couldn't hide it anymore. The writers boldly turned real life into the storyline. Samantha got pregnant and gave birth to Tabitha, the little witch daughter who quickly became the most beloved child star of the series. The third pregnancy was also written directly into the plot, and little Adam Stevens officially joined the family, making the Stevens household even more fun and realistic than ever. Hard to believe, right? The witch on screen was actually pregnant 3 times, and the crew had to perform real magic to hide it for years 19. The heartbreaking tragedy of Dick York, the most lovable Darrin in Bewitched. Do you still remember Dick York the loving, sometimes grumpy but incredibly endearing man who played Darrin Stevens? Behind that bright smile on screen was a deeply painful story that will break your heart. It all started in 1959 while filming the movie They Came to Cordura. During a physically demanding scene, Dick York suffered a severe back injury. The pain never went away, turning him into a prisoner of painkillers. By the time he joined Bewitched in 1964, his condition was already terrible. The crew even built a special tilted wall behind the scenes so he could lean against it between takes, hiding the excruciating pain that the audience never saw. The painkillers, constant exhaustion, and increasingly severe seizures became harder and harder to control. The tragic climax came in 1969 during season 5 of Bewitched. Dick York suddenly collapsed right on set, suffering a violent epileptic seizure in front of the entire crew and cast. That moment sealed his fate and forced him to leave the role of Darrin, the role that had made him a star. His replacement, Dick Sargent, tried his best, but he could never fill the void in the audience's hearts. After leaving the show, Dick York's life spiraled downward. He lost his job, his health deteriorated badly, and he fell into extreme poverty at one point. He even had to clean toilets just to survive. The man once loved by millions of viewers became a shadow of his former self, struggling with addiction and Hollywood's cold indifference. Yet even in his darkest days, Dick York did something truly admirable. He founded the organization, Acting for Life, to help homeless people. A kind heart that never stopped shining even though life had been incredibly unfair to him. 18. The special Christmas episode written by 22 black high school students. Did you know one of the most meaningful and courageous episodes of Bewitched wasn't written by professional Hollywood writers? It was created by 22 African-American 10th grade students from Los Angeles. The episode is called Sisters at Heart, which aired during Christmas 1970. The story begins sweetly. Tabitha Stevens befriends a young black girl named Lisa. When other kids tease them, saying, "You can't be sisters because you have different skin colors," Tabitha uses her magic to make both girls covered in black and white spots, proving that family bonds aren't limited by skin color. But behind the innocent children's story is a powerful message for adults. Mr. Brockway, a wealthy white businessman, refuses to sign $1 million contract with Darrin simply because he mistakenly believes Darrin is married to a black woman. To teach him a memorable lesson, Samantha uses her magic so that Brockway sees everyone around him, including himself, with black skin. The episode doesn't just tell a story with magic, it delivers a profound message. If you put yourself in someone else's shoes, you'll realize how ridiculous racial prejudice truly is. What makes this episode truly unforgettable is how it was born. Elizabeth Montgomery and her husband, director William Asher, invited all 22 black students to write the script, and even brought them directly onto the set, turning a school idea into a nationally broadcast television episode. Sisters at Heart is not just a sweet Christmas episode, it's a meaningful social project, and one of the most progressive and courageous episodes of Bewitched at a time when America was deeply divided by racial issues. 17. The actress playing Gladys Kravitz kept her terminal illness secret on set. Alice Pierce, who portrayed the nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz, often brought laughter to viewers with her charming, witty performance, but backstage lay a bitter truth few knew. Only months before taking the role, Pierce was diagnosed with late-stage ovarian cancer. Knowing her time was limited, she chose to keep it secret and continued working at full capacity to bring Gladys to life on television. Signs of her illness appeared as she grew thinner, but Pierce never complained. Instead, she poured all her energy into filming, making Gladys one of the most memorable supporting characters in the series. Her underdeveloped jaw from a childhood accident added to her unique appearance, shaping the quirky comedic style a nosy, harsh neighbor, constantly caught in chaotic situations witnessing Samantha's magic. Ironically, as Bewitched became more famous, her illness quietly claimed her life. She passed away in March 1966 at only 48, leaving colleagues and fans in deep mourning. 2 months later, the Television Academy posthumously awarded her an Emmy for Outstanding Supporting Actress in a Comedy Series, a well-deserved but belated tribute to a talent gone too soon. After Pierce's death, the role of Gladys Kravitz was handed to Sandra Gould to continue the story arc. But for viewers, the original Gladys, the petite, resilient woman who brought laughter while silently battling illness, remains an unforgettable icon. Do you remember the image of Grandma Gladys? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 16. Real fire and explosions on set. In the middle of Season 7, a sudden fire broke out in the kitchen, the heart of the Stevens home on screen. The flames weren't huge, but enough to destroy part of the set that had been familiar to audiences for years. The crew faced an emergency: either slow production or rebuild the kitchen in record time. While viewers eagerly awaited the new season, the set was in chaos. The crew had to escape the studio, shoot outdoor scenes in Salem and other Massachusetts locations to buy time while workers rushed to repair the set. Once rebuilt, the kitchen appeared completely new. A breakfast nook overlooking the backyard, wider walkways, even a side staircase to the second floor. Interiors, curtains, and paint all changed, as if the Stevens home had been upgraded through an unintended magical intervention. Were you surprised by this transformation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 15. Elizabeth Montgomery's nose twitch when casting magic. Even before Bewitched officially started filming, director William Asher noticed that whenever Montgomery felt impatient, nervous, or waiting for something, she would twitch her upper lip, naturally causing her nose to twitch slightly. According to Herbie J. Pilato in Twitch Upon a Star, the bewitched life and career of Elizabeth Montgomery, Asher thought this small gesture could become a signature sign for magic. So it was brought to the screen as a magical effect. Asher asked Montgomery to try the lip/nose movement before filming to see if it occurred naturally under pressure. At first, Montgomery denied it, claiming she didn't know she did it. But once while drinking at a bar, she accidentally made the movement, and Asher immediately said, "That's it." When Bewitched began, this twitch became the trigger for Samantha's magic. Early episodes clearly showed it in the opening sequence and various scenes, a slight lip movement, followed by a nose twitch accompanied by a soft xylophone sound, all enhancing the magical effect. While fans usually remember it as a nose twitch, in reality, the upper lip moves, first causing the nose to follow. It's not the nose twitching independently. From then on, viewers remembered Samantha Stevens with the nose twitch as an inseparable part of her character. Wherever she appeared, baseball games, movie theaters, meeting fans, people would shout twitch for her to perform the gesture. Montgomery once recalled that when watching Dodgers or Chicago Cubs games, fans shouted Liz twitch to grant magical luck, and sometimes they believed her twitching helped the team turn the game around. How do you feel about this fun habit? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 14. Directly inspired by two classic Hollywood masterpieces, I Married a Witch and Bell Book, and Candle before Samantha Stevens stepped onto the small screen and became a television icon in Bewitched. 1964, Hollywood had already worked its magic with beautiful witches in the 1940s and 1950s. Two films, I Married a Witch, 1942, and Bell Book and Candle, 1958, laid the foundation for the witch falls for a mortal trope, proving that audiences were particularly captivated by the mix of supernatural romance and everyday life. In I Married a Witch, Veronica Lake played Jennifer, a witch reborn from the 17th century, returning to torment the descendants of the man who condemned and burned her. But her revenge plan collapsed when she fell in love with that same eternal enemy. Lake's character was not only charming and wild, but also reflected a desire to break free from an imposed destiny, a theme far beyond the comedic setting. The film made waves at the time by combining screwball comedy with supernatural elements, opening a new branch for American cinema. Witches were no longer symbols of evil, but central characters in intimate love stories. 16 years later, Bell, Book, and Candle brought this trope into the lively, modern setting of Greenwich Village. Kim Novak played Jillian, a young woman running an antique shop, living in the mortal world, but descended from a mischievous witch family. Her romance with Shep James Stewart presented a dilemma between true love and supernatural power. What would she choose? The film, also released by Columbia Pictures, bore many similarities to the later Bewitched, a woman who wants to fit in yet remains bound by her magical heritage. It was the success of these two films that Sol Sachs, the creator of Bewitched, openly admitted directly influenced his conception of Samantha Stevens. Columbia Pictures, which owned both films as well as the production company behind Bewitched, already had a golden formula combining romance humor and mystical elements to captivate audiences. Instead of stopping at a single film story, they turned it into a television series, lasting nearly a decade, revisiting the familiar yet ever-fresh conflicts between the magical and the mundane every week. Have you ever watched these two classic films? Share your thoughts in the comments below. 13. Dick York and Agnes Moorehead were close friends behind the scenes. On screen, the relationship between Endora and Darrin was an uncompromising battle, a vicious mother-in-law constantly finding ways to torment her mortal son-in-law. Yet behind the scenes, the reality was completely opposite. Agnes Moorehead, who played Endora, found in Dick York a soul she deeply valued. York was not just a co-star, but someone she felt closest to on set. York's sincerity, unique spiritual beliefs, and acting talent made Moorehead, a devoutly religious woman, develop a special bond with him. This relationship created an interesting paradox. The fierce on-screen rivals became close friends in real life. When York suffered a severe back injury and had to leave Bewitched, Moorehead felt the loss deeply. She saw not only a change in the crew, but also the absence of a trusted collaborator who had shared many memorable moments with her throughout the early seasons. When Dick Sargent was brought in as a replacement, Moorehead did not hide her disappointment. During the first script reading, she candidly stated, "I don't like change." 12. Montgomery played two main characters on the show. Elizabeth Montgomery refused to let her career be confined to the image of the perfect witch wife, Samantha Stevens. When she felt the character becoming monotonous, she proactively asked the producers for a new challenge to portray Serena, her rebellious cousin who loved partying and causing trouble. If Samantha embodied gentleness and charm, Serena was free-spirited, bold, fashion-forward, and unafraid to break all the rules. This contrast not only enriched Bewitched's storyline, but also allowed Montgomery to showcase her rare versatility. Interestingly, Montgomery did not use her real name when playing Serena, but chose the stage name Pandora's Box, a pun on Pandora's box hinting at the chaotic world of surprises she would unleash. On the show's credits, many viewers even believed it was a different actress until the truth was revealed. Behind this dual portrayal, Montgomery not only brought to life two contrasting characters in a single series, but also asserted her artistic courage, daring to break out of safety, reinvent herself, and leave a unique mark still admired by critics and audiences today. 11. Supporting actors wore their own clothes and accessories. According to Casey Rogers, who played Louise Tate, the Bewitched set was not as glamorous as many might think. Supporting actors such as Aunt Clara or the nosy neighbor Gladys Kravitz often had to bring their own clothes a week in advance. The wardrobe department would handle dry cleaning and ironing, ensuring everything was perfect on set, as if custom prepared for them. Among them, Agnes Moorehead left a lasting impression with her star-shaped brooch, sparkling with 8.5 carat diamonds mined from an old mine. Moorehead often wore it during photo shoots, and the jewelry nearly became her personal signature. Elizabeth Montgomery particularly adored the brooch, frequently marveling at it when Moorehead wore it. When Agnes Moorehead passed away in 1974, her will specified that the precious brooch should be passed down to her daughter, who later became a familiar face on television. Like a family heirloom, the jewelry carried not only material value, but also the memories and legacy of a legendary actress who helped give Bewitched its soul. 10. Elizabeth Montgomery married director Bill Asher. When Bewitched premiered in 1964, few knew that Elizabeth Montgomery and William Bill Asher were married. Asher was not only Montgomery's husband, but also the show's director and producer. He had already made his mark with I Love Lucy and The Danny Thomas Show, but Bewitched became the pinnacle of his career, a turning point for Montgomery, and proof of the creative power of their collaboration in both art and life. Yet once the cameras stopped rolling, tensions gradually appeared. Working together brought marital conflicts to the surface. Rumors about Asher's extramarital affairs and Montgomery's feelings for director Richard Michaels in later seasons deepened the gap. On several occasions, Montgomery directly requested crew changes for directing certain episodes, threatening to walk away if her demands weren't met, signaling that the marriage had begun to seriously fracture. By 1972, Bewitched concluded after 8 seasons, leaving an indelible mark in American television history. But shortly thereafter, the Hollywood power couple split. In 1973, Montgomery and Asher officially divorced, ending a love both exhilarating and bittersweet, nurtured by artistic collaboration yet crushed by its weight. After Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery devoted herself to more dramatic roles, moving away from the charming witch wife image to assert her versatile acting skills. As for Bill Asher, though he continued in television, he could never replicate the dazzling success of Bewitched. 9. Special effects were extremely creative. In an era without computer-generated effects, Bewitched still convinced audiences that magic was real, a testament to the special effects team led by Richard Dick Albane. He and his colleagues turned even the smallest details into lively magical moments, all created with practical tricks, wires, switches, and ingenuity beyond conventional limits. A famous example is Samantha's vacuum cleaner, which ran around the house on its own. In reality, the crew removed the brushes, installed a reverse motor underneath, and controlled it with a hidden offstage switch. 1960s viewers saw magic. On set, it was meticulous planning down to the smallest detail. Similarly, when Samantha angrily decided to leave, her suitcase flew from the closet, thanks to a technician on scaffolding above pulling strings like a puppet master. If Samantha needed to clean the living room instantly, Elizabeth Montgomery had to stand still, keeping her pose while the director shouted "cut," and the crew hurried to clear clothes, newspapers, and clutter in seconds. Once the room was tidy, filming continued, and the audience believed it was magic. Even explosive scenes carried risk. Bernard Fox, who played Dr. Bombay, revealed he was lightly burned multiple times by pyrotechnics used for magical effects. The skill, daring, and minor burns contributed to Bewitched's immortal magic, a vivid testament to the creativity of the pre-digital era. Albane admitted the team always prepared multiple backup plans because if a scene didn't align, the entire crew had to start over, a luxury unheard of with a strict TV shooting schedule. Did you notice these creative effects? Share your thoughts on the show in the comments below. 8. The Bewitched theme song had secret lyrics. The familiar opening tune of Bewitched, which is usually heard as a cheerful instrumental, actually once had a full version with enchanting lyrics. Composer Jack Keller wrote the music, while lyricist Howard Greenfield breathed life into it with playful and charming words describing the allure of a man bewitched by love. However, the producers ultimately decided to keep the instrumental version for the television opening, considering it more concise, recognizable, and timely. The lyrical version did not disappear entirely. It was recorded by Steve Lawrence in a classic crooner style, turning the familiar melody into a romantic love song. The lyrics, "Bewitched. Bewitched, you've got me in your spell. You know your craft so well," captured the very spirit of the show, a blend of magic and romance, of supernatural power and very human emotions. Peggy Lee and other singers also performed it, but Steve Lawrence's rendition became the most remembered. 7. A fashion icon. Bewitched served as a vibrant time capsule, reflecting the evolution of American fashion over more than a decade. When the series premiered in 1964, Samantha Stevens appeared in shift dresses, sweaters and shirt dresses reminiscent of the 1950s, evoking classic sophistication and elegance. Even while doing household chores, she didn't hesitate to wear jeans, button-down shirts, and keds, portraying a modern, dynamic woman who retained her femininity. As the series progressed into later seasons, Samantha's wardrobe changed noticeably, reflecting early 1960s trends and moving into the 1970s. Shift dresses, miniskirts, bolder patterns, and vibrant colors appeared frequently, adding youthfulness and energy to the character. In some episodes, Samantha even transformed into high-fashion personas inspired by Parisian style, showing that the production team was not afraid to experiment and innovate. Bewitched became a miniature fashion museum, allowing audiences to track style evolution over 8 seasons. The show not only delivered magic on screen, but also served as a fashion inspiration, preserving decades of trends. From classic cinched waist dresses to short, colorful, bold designs, reflecting the relentless creativity of the costume designers behind the scenes. 6. Montgomery owned 20% of the show. After 5 seasons of working on Bewitched, Elizabeth Montgomery once considered leaving. She had grown tired of playing Samantha Stevens and wanted a new challenge. However, ABC was not ready to let their biggest star walk away. According to author Herbie J. Pilato, the network made an offer so lucrative that Montgomery couldn't refuse, forcing her to reconsider. The deal not only kept her attached to the show, but also elevated her status within the production team. During negotiations, Montgomery and her husband director, William Asher, founded Ashmont Productions, the company behind Bewitched from the mid-1960s. This strategic move made Montgomery not just a face on screen, but one of the actual owners of the show. A rarity for actresses at the time, when production power was usually held by studios and male executives behind the scenes. By the end of the 8th season, Montgomery reportedly owned up to 20% of Bewitched. This meant that whenever the show was rebroadcast, a common phenomenon for decades, she received a portion of the profits worth millions of dollars from royalties, even when she was no longer in front of the camera. 5. Multiple networks tried to remake Bewitched over the decades since Bewitched ended Hollywood, continuously attempted to revive this television icon. In 2011, CBS commissioned a remake script from screenwriter Mark Lawrence, produced by Douglas Wick and Lucy Fisher, the duo behind the 2005 Bewitched film. However, the project never moved beyond the script stage, leaving questions about whether Samantha and Darrin could still captivate 21st century audiences. 3 years later, NBC took another shot with a bold idea, a follow-up series focused on Daphne, Samantha's granddaughter. The script was handled by Abby Cohn and Mark Silverstein, familiar writers of romantic comedies. NBC even committed to producing a pilot, but the project quickly faded into obscurity, showing that Bewitched's legacy could be a double-edged sword, both enticing and scrutinized. By 2018, ABC made a bigger gamble with a modern version, written by Kenya Barris Blackish and Yamara Taylor. This reboot explored racial differences. Samantha was rewritten as a black single witch married to a white man, reflecting contemporary social issues. Despite generating strong curiosity, ABC ultimately froze the project due to an unsatisfactory script. 4. Moorehead was cast as Endora after a chance encounter with Montgomery. An interesting anecdote surrounds how Agnes Moorehead was cast as Endora in Bewitched. Elizabeth Montgomery reportedly ran into the Oscar-nominated actress at Bloomingdale's department store. Montgomery asked if Moorehead had ever considered working in television. Moorehead simply smiled and replied ambiguously, "Maybe, maybe not." By 1964, Agnes Moorehead was officially chosen to play Endora Samantha Stevens' sharp-witted witch mother-in-law. This marked a major turning point in her career, as Moorehead had never planned to do long-term television work. Previously, she was renowned on stage and screen, known for serious roles and frequent award nominations. Bewitched changed everything. Endora quickly became a television icon, commanding sharp yet witty and charming. 3. Richard Crenna almost played Darrin. From the earliest days of planning Bewitched casting, Darrin Stevens became an intense behind-the-scenes hunt. Initially, Dick Sargent was the top candidate but had to decline due to a contract with another sitcom broadside. When that door seemingly closed, Richard Crenna was considered. Having just made a splash with the real McCoys, he seemed a promising choice to pair with Elizabeth Montgomery on screen. However, having spent many years on long-running series, Crenna was not ready to commit to a new project. He declined the offer, paving the way for another actor to step into television history, Dick York, an actor with a solid footing in film and Broadway, especially noted for his performance in They Came to Cordura 3. The meaningful name, Tabitha. Do you remember the name Tabitha? Though seemingly a minor detail in Bewitched, it carried an interesting and dramatic story. Elizabeth Montgomery, who played Samantha, insisted on naming the daughter in the show Tabitha, as she felt the name had a classic, mysterious, and unusual charm. Few knew that the inspiration came from real life, the daughter of actor Edward Andrews. By incorporating a real-life name, Tabitha became more than just a fictional character. She carried a trace of reality. But the story didn't end there. When Tabitha first appeared, the show's credits mistakenly spelled it Tabitha. One tiny letter yet infuriated Montgomery, making her deeply upset. For her, correcting the error was not just technical, it was a matter of honor. The letter battle continued for multiple seasons, and finally, after much struggle, Montgomery won. Starting from season 5, Tabitha was standardized across all script credits and official documents. Even more surprisingly, the name Tabitha quickly became a cultural phenomenon. Many American parents in the 1970s and 1980s began naming their daughters after the character in Bewitched. 2. Marion Lorne. Aunt Clara collected antique doorknobs. Marion Lorne, who brought the lovable but clumsy Aunt Clara to life in Bewitched, added a very real detail to her character: a passion for collecting antique doorknobs. In real life, Lorne owned over 1,000 doorknobs of various shapes and materials, hunted from all over. Many props in the show came directly from her quirky collection, making Aunt Clara and her doorknobs even more authentic and charming. 1. Tammy Grimes almost became Samantha Tammy Grimes, the Broadway star who won a Tony for the unsinkable Molly Brown in 1961, nearly became the witch Samantha in Bewitched. At the time, the main character was still called Cassandra, and Grimes was Screen Gem's first choice for the role. The studio believed her fame would bring instant appeal from the very first episode. However, Grimes saw issues with the script. She openly questioned if the character had supernatural powers, why focus only on the kitchen and living room? Why not use magic to stop wars or solve Los Angeles traffic problems? These idealistic questions led to an impasse with the production team. Unable to reach an agreement, Grimes declined the role and returned to Broadway to star in High Spirits. More than half a century later, the behind-the-scenes secrets, real-life shocks, and seemingly small details of Bewitched still amaze audiences. From Elizabeth Montgomery playing 2 characters, Agnes Moorehead's chance casting as Endora Alice Pierce's tragedy, to the ingenious handcrafted special effects, all created a magical, dramatic world that left an enduring mark on American television history. What about you among these 20 facts which surprised, delighted, or even moved you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to continue exploring fascinating behind-the-scenes stories from classic films, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss any of the fun. Thank you for joining us.